Hello, Internet. I'm Daniel. The channel is Driving and Dragons, and this is You're Doing It Wrong, a series where I discuss nuances, decisions, common mistakes, and simple adjustments that are either holding back play or enhancing play in certain aspects of TTRPG gameplay, be it Dungeons and Dragons, Call of Cthulhu, Traveller, Cyberpunk, Shadow Dark, Castles and Crusades, Colonies and Conquerors, Baptism of Fire, Lion and Dragon, or any other game that we play with character sheets, dice, and some flavor of Game Master. I also typically work on restoring old vehicles, currently a rare 10th anniversary Nissan 280ZX Black Gold Edition. If you haven't seen the commercial, I'm going to link it. Watch it. It's the most amazingly 80s thing ever. Or I drive around the various roadways of central Alabama. It's my goal to get to 1,000 subscribers by 2025, and I do want to monetize this channel at some point so that I can use the funds to restore cars that I can then give away to my subscribers. Yes, I'm serious. That's 100% correct. I want to give away cars on my channel. I love tabletop role-playing games, and I love working on cool old cars. This gives me an excuse to do both and to make someone's day every 18 to 24 months, however long it takes to actually finish the projects. On today's topic, how you are doing it wrong when it comes to religion in your tabletop role-playing game. Specifically, I'm talking about running, managing, and playing clerics, priests, paladins, holy warriors, crusaders, monks, shamans, and all other manner of divinely focused characters who populate your world as a game master or a player. This will actually be a companion video to World Building 106, Developing Gods, Religions, and the Cosmos, which will be coming out not too long after this goes up. When we consider religion in our game worlds, many GMs make two serious mistakes. First is they only consider religion, theology, and the requirements thereof in a mechanical game terms. And second is they view all religion in-game through a modern lens. When we as players, especially those of us who are GMs, look at religiously based characters, it typically comes in the form of this cleric gets access to these spells, or this priest has to have this alignment, or at most, the abbot has to promote these principles. Too often, being a cleric, for instance, boils down to, I'm a cleric of the god of nature, so I get spells focused on animals and plants and nurturing. My holy symbol is a tree with a four-pointed crown over it to represent the four seasons, and I get a bonus on identifying plants and animals and working with animals. You might even get I have to be careful to respect nature. None of this is anything but mechanical gameplay lingo. There's no depth, and worse, everything is so nondescript that the player character, or the GM in the case of an NPC, that the only difference in game from other characters beyond the abilities is they may occasionally say something like, by the light of Jabril, or when we get to town, I go to pray at the local temple to my god, as if every town has 15 temples or shrines to accommodate every deity in their polytheistic society. It turns out the character's role class, it takes the character's role class or profession and turns it into a 99-cent DLC reskin of generic adventurer when it comes to anything other than their class skills, role abilities, profession bonuses, or however else the system you're playing classifies different types of characters. However, the leaders of real religions are not simply everyday Joes with the prayer book and a special necklace. They live, breathe, eat, and sleep their faith. Catholic priests spend several hours a day in prayers, visit hospitals and care facilities, wear a clerical collar, pray the rosary, and conduct mass several times a week, in addition to any additional duties related to feast days or obligations. Clerics, Catholic priests, Orthodox priests, Orthodox rabbis, Muslim imams, they all fast regularly. Rabbis use no technology, fast, and spend the Sabbath doing no work. Muslim leaders pray 5 times daily facing Mecca and will complete the Hajj. Hindu Paraji ring the prayer bell, perform the Akabishikam every morning, and eat no meat or consume alcohol. The point is simply being within one step of your god's alignment, or making the occasional visit to a local temple between adventurers. It not only reduces religion to a simple game mechanic, it also undermines two of the three pillars of TTRPG play. Sure, gamist play is largely unaffected, but narrative or dramatist play and simulationist play are both harmed by this reduction. Fixing this is largely a shift in perspective and role play, as well as some extra work on the part of the GM. In a lot of world building, even by very well-funded AAA game publishers, the actual practice of religion is very vaguely defined. For instance, in the 3rd edition D&D, prior to the release of Demigods and Deities, the best a Cleric of Pelor got was Pelor, God of the Sun, is neutral good. His title is the Shining One. Pelor is the creator of many good things, a supporter of those in need, and an adversary of all that is evil. He is the most commonly worshipped deity among ordinary humans, and his priests are well received wherever they go. Rangers and bards are found among his worshippers. His domains he's associated with are good, healing, strength, and sun. The mace is his favorite weapon. That's it. The single most commonly worshipped deity among the most numerous race in the setting, and that's all the DM is given. That's all the players are given. You're a Cleric of Pelor, congratulations. He's a good god who is well received and strength and sun. That's it. Call of Cthulhu at least gives cultists worshipping the Great Cthulhu several paragraphs on his cults, including a text box outlining how the cult is fragmented, and while all share a common faith, the methods, practices, and dogma varies and may even bring the cults at odds with each other. But it's still not a lot in the way of detail. It is certainly more to go on, but still not a lot. A game master needs to add more detail to those religions in the form of observances, taboos, ritual practices, codes of conduct, and holy days of observance that have real consequences for the players who choose to play characters dedicated to those faiths. A priest of a nature god who burns down or allows to be burned down a pine forest in order to flush out hiding bandits should face serious repercussions for such a breach of the faith. Clerics and Paladins should be required to practice certain rituals and perhaps observe certain customs and taboos as part of not only their roleplay, but their mechanical gameplay as well. Of course, this can only happen if the GM takes the time to flesh out these faiths and present them to the players. My suggestion is for most campaigns is to only focus on fleshing out religions relevant to the party. If your game involves a cult of Zach Herrick and their doom prophecy, and you have a priest of Athnu, god of fire, in your party, then flesh out Athnu and Zach Herrick and don't put a lot of time into the other faiths. It also doesn't have to be all that much to get the desired effect. It can be as simple as Athnu requires reverence of the great fire. So when the sun is at its zenith, say 11 to 1 p.m., priests of Athnu must spend the time in meditation if they are able to easily move into sunlight. Otherwise, they have to light a special candle, the sun candle, for the ritual. They can't travel or do any other activities during that contemplation period. And then say they can also only use fire as a light source. So no flashlights or electric lamps in your modern settings, no light spells, glowing swords, glow sticks, special materials like phosphorus or something that glow in the dark, etc. None of that stuff. Or you could be as in-depth as to hand a player a holy calendar with all the ritual feasts and fasting days, taboos, behavior codes, and the like. You just have to be careful not to overly burden the player with a character who is so burdened by ritual that they can only exist in a monastery, or they become annoyingly burdensome to the rest of the game. The PCs are adventurers of some sort. They're adventurers of some flavor, be it sci-fi or sword and sorcery, so they need to be able to effectively adventure and not have to stop 15 times to pray every time they take 10 steps. The second major issue is that players view religion, regardless of genre or setting, through a modern lens. This category can seriously hinder world or setting building for the GMs, but it's largely a player character problem. An easy example is how nearly every religion ends up either being vaguely Christian or vaguely Christian but with some kind of evil added to it in Western RPG tables, meaning European or American. By this I mean that religious observance is things like, I say a prayer over the dead to guide their soul to whatever my God views as heaven. Or I make an offering of 50 credits at the Spaceport Chapel. Offering, prayers for the dead, heaven, hell, these are not universal concepts. But more than that, it's how the modern post-Enlightenment, or worse, post-modern viewpoint is that religious observance comes down to saying a few words with a bowed head and making donations while following a few broad moral rules to go to the good place and or avoid the bad place when you die. It completely ignores both the variety of and the variety of reasons behind different religious practices. Players should think about what their character's religion represents and what it holds in high regard and decide what personal practices would make sense, particularly if the game master isn't doing the work of fleshing things out for them. Why would a god of greed have a cleric who burns a dead associate on a pyre instead of a practice of redistributing their possessions among family and friends? Why would a god of nature hold their services in a man-made structure? Why would a faith that believes in reincarnation pray over a dead comrade or guide them into the afterlife? In most cases, they wouldn't. Should your cleric of life allow the execution of a prisoner? Almost certainly not. Should that god who practices and believes in reincarnation, a god of reincarnation, should they allow resurrection spells in a game where resurrection spells are possible? Probably not. That seems like it would interfere with that character's soul passing over into their new being, into their next life. Should your cleric of a death god allow for healing magic and resurrection? It's a little bit of a dicier issue, but there's things to be said there. If you have a god of strength, should not building strength or doing things to promote physical fitness be part of their rituals? In the end, you're doing it wrong if religion, either in your world as a game master or on your character sheet as a player of a religious figure, is summed up in one short paragraph. At least if you want depth and life to your game world. If it's all hex grids and battle maps, hey, have at it. Who cares who or what name the paladin yells in battle, as long as the class ability chart says he gets to smite. But if you want more narrative depth and you want a more simulationist world, you want a world that feels more alive and more lived in, you're going to have to be a little bit more granular when it comes to how these religions work, especially for characters where their religion is a defining part of the character. That's what I've got. Be on the lookout for World Building 106, Developing Gods, Religion, and the Cosmos. And I hope to see you guys back in the comments this time and the next. Until then, have a great rest of your day.